Welcome to the session in which we're going to discuss the online world. Much has been said about Proptech over the last few years, and we're seeing Proptech being used in different places in the property market. But I think what the techies are really on about is improving the efficiencies of markets. And I think there's always been this view that property markets are relatively inefficient. We high transaction costs, we have poor information. And I think that's the exciting world that we're entering into with the fourth industrial revolution and Proptech. So I think let's try to unpack this a bit, and especially from a broking perspective. I think that's where I think the biggest opportunity, and let's be honest, the opportunities at scale can happen. So let's start with an initial question. What role does Proptech play in the marketplace?
Well, it's such a broad range, Francois. You know, Proptech is being used in retail, from simple things like counting feet, right through to cameras and all of that technology. But we're focusing specifically in that transactional space, rental and sales, and then obviously with that all the information or data that sits behind it. And from that point, I think where Proptech is going to be interesting is the live data that is going to be able to be produced and be able to be utilized. Because at the moment, so much of our data tends to be backward looking, 6 months behind. And now we live in a world where what is reality today is not reality tomorrow. And so that dated data is a problem. But
I think I've been long enough in this industry to remember rent rolls that were printed on a piece of paper that were faxed or emailed out to people, and you sort of didn't know if it was let, if it wasn't let.
Yes. Not much different now.
Yes.
And so that efficiencies around vacancy schedules that now come out once a month could come out daily. And those changes that start being brought about. And so for us, it's about efficiency. I think that's the big thing around Proptech is efficiency. And to a certain extent, a level of disintermediation.
Right. No,
and that disintermediation is about putting the parties that are transacting closer together. Whereas up until now, they've always operated at a distance, and often with a multiplicity of players in between.
So who are the players? Who's involved in the Proptech world, in the sphere that you are involved with? Is it the owner? Is it the broker? Who's really involved here, and who puts it together?
Yeah. So our main client is the landlord. So the landlord or the property manager who has control of the landlord stock. Right. So problems in the industry at the moment are obviously that the landlord puts out their vacancies to various brokers. So they're not really control of their stock that goes out to the market. So if you look on channels like Property 24, there are various different listings, the same listings 10, 20 different times. So it really comes down to us going back to the source of the data, and the source of the data sits with the landlords, hopefully within their property management systems, but sometimes within an Excel vacancy sheet. So that's kind of the market we're trying to clean up by making that market more efficient. So what we're really doing is we're taking the landlord's data directly, we're putting into a system where a one platform system where we can push the data through to various channels, such as online channels, the client's website, and to the brokerages as well.
So the big difference between what you are involved with and let's say a Property 24 is exactly what differentiates?
So we pull the data directly from the landlord. So with the Property 24, generally brokers load the listings on Property 24 and push it out to the market. So there are various different aspects where we're different. One is specifically that we focus on this transparent market where landlords, we integrate the landlord data, we market to various channels, and then we have a fully automated transactional platform as well. So those are our 3 different pillars.
But if I am the tenant, can I go to this directly as well?
You can do exactly the same.
So so just like in the travel industry, like Booking.com and Travel Start created online travel booking portal, it's exactly the same. So it doesn't stop anyone from viewing the properties directly. We're not cutting anybody out of the system, but with digital marketing and the ease of marketing and geofencing, etc., it's so much easier to find properties online. So obviously, yes, we're targeting directly at tenants and purchasers, but brokers can also access the information on the platform.
So Proptech is largely about interacting or resolving inefficiencies in the market. So what are the major inefficiencies that you are dealing with here, or that you're trying to resolve?
The first one is an inefficiency around time. Right. Because effectively what is happening now is I'm taking my property management system and then I'm collating a vacancy schedule.
So there's somebody involved.
It takes him 3 or 4 days to do that. That then has to be collated. And then in turn I send that vacancy schedule to a number of brokers who in turn physically upload that onto their system. Okay. And so there's that time efficiency.
And costs.
But what happens then at a property level is, because, say if I was an asset manager, I'm spending so much time collating the information to get it out on time, I spend very little time analyzing the information. So by allowing this integration at the press of a button, I can have my full list of vacancies in front of me today, and I can start analyzing.
So I think that if we look at Proptech over the years, we've gone to Proptech 2 at the moment, or 3. We've got the first one was the Excel spreadsheet, and that was Proptech 1. Then we went to 2, where everybody was doing their things, and I think that there's always been a problem in the Proptech around scaling.
Yes.
There always seems to be that some of the Proptech interventions are very specific to resolve X or Y's problem. And is that right? Is that a right observation, that there's a scaling problem?
Absolutely. And I think it's because all these systems are designed and they work in silos. So, there's a property management system that does X, that doesn't really look after anything with vacancies. And there's a vacancy management system that does Y. And then from there it goes somehow back into the property management system once there's a lease done, because then it turns into, the invoicing system and financial system. So the issue is that the systems don't talk to one another. So these silos then create complexities, and also the teams don't buy in, because they've got to log into all these different platforms. Hence why we are quite adamant that our technology is an integration technology, so a one login system. So we pull the data, there's one port of call where everything's updated and changed, and from there it pushes through to the various channels. And I think that's really, really the key, having that one source of data.
But I think MRI also started showing that you can start getting scale, that you can start creating platforms that can service all of the organizations and with certain tweaks. I think initially everybody thought he had a problem that was unique to himself, and you tried to resolve his unique problem, as opposed to, as I said, MRI, MDA, creating systems that with some tweaking is able to suit everybody, and now you're starting to get the scale.
Karen, the property business, the letting business, is about the commission. At the end of the day, that's where who gets 200-300%
commissions.
Who gets what?
Who's the effective cause?
Who's the effective cause? Who made it happen? How do you see that working out in a system like yours?
So it's a good question. So we've realized that this is obviously one of the biggest issues for the landlords, to track where the introductions come from, especially in the current market, because There are huge amounts of vacancies. There are not that many tenants around. So when a tenant is introduced, brokers generally like to keep the information close to their chests. The landlords are in a bit of a tricky situation often because they also are dealing with the tenants directly. So what we've created is our system actually has a registration, automated registration and verification. So where a broker actually can introduce a tenant online, and the tenant then, when he gets a notification on email, and he verifies that introduction, which is then logged into the system. It creates an audit trail, and at that point it's really the mandate between the actual seller and the landlord and the broker, and what what their commission structure is. But at least they can track the effective course.
A thing that has always interested me in the work that I've been doing around decision making is how we create a decision making architecture. How do we create systems that help people to
make decisions?
Informative decisions.
Yeah.
Are these just information systems that are useful for a broker? How far can we go?
I think,
yeah.
And again, at the moment we're stopping at the point of a offer.
Right.
Where ultimately you can turn it into a sale agreement. That sale agreement can end up going into the system with the bank. The bank can link up to the deeds office, and it can become a whole continuum. At the moment, you and I can buy a property today and sign a sale agreement, and in 3 months' time the transfer will only happen because it just then slows down. And their blockchain and finance, fintech can also play in a role, and we can move a deal that takes 3 months to a deal that takes 3 days.
That's what I'm getting at. So do we go beyond the vacancies schedule to say the owner's lease could be on there?
Absolutely, yeah. So we, at the moment, our system, as Wayne says, it populates, it goes to the point of populating the offer into an automated offer document with an automated signature. And obviously the next step is to turn that back into a lease that's tracked online, and then eventually that's pushed back into the property management system where all the data is stored. So if you have a field or any entry on in a back office or on the front end that a data field that you enter, any of that information is obviously stored in the back end of the system, which one can then integrate into various other systems again. So in terms of technology, just your question on I suppose does it give you all the information? So because our technology is integrated, what we're doing is we almost every landlord provides the information in a different format. One landlord's gross rental is different to their net rental. So what we're doing is we're standardizing that information.
Even the definition of square meters.
Absolutely.
We all think that GLA is a clear-cut concept, but
so they're not actually comparing apples with apples. So we are trying to, as far as we can, standardize that information into so that it pulls into kind of a standard back office, which then it automates and cleans up that information into a specific format. So you can then start comparing, as Wayne said, if you look at an office space in Claremont of 100 square meters, one landlord's gross rental will be different to a net rental, but then we have a gross monthly rental amount, and what are the differentials, and what are the different grades of the building. And then eventually there's some other tricks that we will add.
Certainly from one of the owners you would know all the properties that they have.
So we're looking to a system where all owners would be wanting to put their information and effectively creating an online marketplace where owners are able to put their properties and tenants are able to see their properties and trade on the system. But I think Proptech, and I think that's sometimes where we get it wrong. When we think property, we kind of think it has to be property related. So you take the technology around photography and virtual tours. That is allowed for you to do viewings without getting up from your desk, and so for us, I think the big thing is not to think that you're brighter than everybody else, but to take tech that has been developed
And to help,
and then to make it work into.
And what I would say is, and to help people who are making decisions,
yes,
and to figure out what are the blockages in that decision making. What are some of the challenges with these sort of systems? I mean,
we don't know of any rental vacancy management software, but certainly there is in the auctions platforms. There are off-the-shelf ones that you can buy, but it's not specific to the South African property market, and the few nuances. So if a client who we built a white labeled platform wants a new type of brochure or a new system or a new integration, we can build that for them. And that I think is key, to be nimble and to be able to make those changes and move. There's no use in being first with a new product and then you can't keep up because new changes come about. And this is where we've also had problems with, our landlords. So they all use different property management systems. But yet, funny enough, probably 95% of them use a base of Excel for their vacancies. So their information is completely disparate. It's not in the same format. So herein lies we need to now come up with a solution in terms of either pulling that data from a system that they have or giving them a platform to be able to integrate that data, because we can't load 1,200 vacancies every single month because that would be pretty pointless. So it's that integration that is absolutely key.
Quoin, thank you very much for the interaction. I think it's a fascinating environment that we're entering in. And I think it's so important what you're doing, that we end up with systems that are broad enough and I think where you have a consistency in what enters the market as well. Otherwise you do end up a confused market where things come from different angles with different values, and so I think that you're playing an important role in making the South African property market more efficient. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Francois.
Okay.